Welcome back to another edition of Zero Blog 30. And today we have 3 rounds in the magazine. Round number 1, Tommy Tuberville. Yeah, that Tommy Tuberville used to be the head coach of Auburn and Texas Tech. Well, now he's pulling some political stunts, and they are going to hurt readiness in a big way. And he just wants to do it to be talked about. I'm sure of it. Like all these issues that people do this, it's just so people talk about them. And we're going to oblige him and talk about it.
It's working. Today. We're talking Tommy. Is it Tuberville or Tuberville?
Tuberville.
Either way.
Tommy
Tuberville is a great name for a Southern college coach.
Yeah, just a Southern person anyway. Like
truly
Tupperware, Tuberville, Tupper something. Round number 2, a Marine at Camp Pendleton was charged with having a 14-year-old in a barracks room, and the details are disturbing, at least, to say the least. We're going to hear from the aunt, right, Kate? Is the aunt or cousin?
I think it's her aunt on TikTok, which this whole thing, this is a perfect example of the narrative getting away from the military of already a terrible, truly terrible story. But social media running with it before the military can keep up, and another black guy in a long series of crazy stories over the last couple of years. So this is a lot of people talking about this one.
And finally, round number 3, we're going to have some good initiative, bad judgment, featuring some cop parents who are putting their 3-year-old in jail for not using the old potty, Elon Musk asking to see Zuckerberg's penis, and following someone who believes that Trump is actually JFK Jr. in disguise. Today's show is brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. Barstool Sports recognize that VFW posts have been pillars of support in their communities for decades. So in partnership with New Amsterdam Vodka, Barstool is going to offer much needed assistance to support the renovation of a common area for a VFW post in your local area. Grant applications are still open, and we're calling on our audience to help. New Amsterdam Vodka has pledged $50,000 to renovate a VFW post, and Stoolies can join in too by making their own contribution. So if you're interested in doing that, or just learning more about this program, visit barstoolsports.com/winsforwarriors. Again, that's barstoolsports.com/winsforwarriors. Check it out. I can't wait to show you guys what we're gonna do. New TVs, no new look, new fresh. It's not gonna look like one of those same old dusty old places. We're gonna clean that bad boy up. It's gonna be great. Now, just before we get going on that one, if Trump was JFK Jr. in disguise, why in the world would JFK Jr. go from being hot to being Donald Trump? Like, why would you do that? It's kind of like when Margot Robbie played that one character where she had to make herself super ugly.
I would say this. Once you pass a certain financial point, to me personally, it's $5 million. I don't care if you're a toad. I'm interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think once you pass a certain financial point, like, looks just don't matter. Especially for men, I feel like you go over maybe 5 million mark, you're just attractive in some way. I don't care if Trump wears.
You're really going out on a limb there, Kate, that people with money are going to be with more attractive folks.
Look at Trump. His wife is beautiful.
Oh yeah, I know.
She's stunning.
It's been true forever. I bet old King Nebuchadnezzar had some smoking hot wives. I bet King Solomon had some smoking hot wives, even if they were uggos.
Yeah, and also they're both redheads, kind of. They're both a little gingery, so there could be something to this. I don't know. I'm listening.
True. Wait, the ginger people are ugly or hot?
Well, there's a line. You're either hot or you're not. There's no. Yeah. A lot of people have middle ground. Like, I think I'm a brown-haired person, middle ground. Redheads, there's no middle ground. You're either hot or not.
True. What about if you're mixed? Like, I'm kind of mixed. I got brown hair on top, red hair.
There's a little bit more of a middle ground, but the more red haired you are, the less that middle ground exists for you.
There's okay. All right. Well, let's get started with some of the things that we did. We've been gone for a while, and I got to say, sometimes when we take a break, it's refreshing. I didn't get refreshed at all.
Me neither. This was the worst break ever.
And it's like we at Barstool, just a little behind the scenes for you guys. We have 2 major breaks that we take a year. We take the week between Christmas and New Year's, and so that's usually around 10, 12 days, something like that. And then we have this 4th of July week. 4th of July week, we get the entire time off.
Which is incredible, by the way. Nobody gets that. They're just like,
and
here,
I always forget about the July 4th one. Like, I always forget about the summer week off.
Yeah.
But during the Christmas break, I had broken a toe. Annalise had to have surgery. I had kidney stones. She had to like vertigo really bad, where she had to go to the hospital again.
Yeah.
Cardi had something going on. Kelsey had some, like, Christmas break was awful for us. And now this break was equally as awful, I would say, because the home buying process has just been insane. Kate.
Not to get too into it, because people are probably so sick of hearing about us talk about the details, but you bought a home, and 8 days after you closed, the basement flooded in Chicago's craziest flooding ever, and you had poopy all over your basement, your brand new basement.
I'm sitting in Texas still. I'm still in Texas trying to figure out everything, going through the selling process of selling a home, which is stressful. We'll get to that in a minute. But I was sitting here and being a typical dad, watching the weather, because I had heard, like, on TikTok, seen it, Twitter, seen that there's going to be some big storms rolling through. So I'm watching it. I'm going on Facebook, like the local different groups that, like, moms are in that are talking about the area that you're in. And I was looking for different keywords about the streets that I knew were close to mine. And then it was like one of them popped up, and the street that I was on had 3 houses in a row. And my house was the 4th house in that row. So I'm sitting there knowing for like 95% certain that something horrific is going on in my basement. And I have no idea. I have no cameras, no friends there, no one who has access to my house except for our realtor. And luckily she went over that night, but she goes in, there's like 4 or 5 inches of standing water in the basement. And it wasn't water. It was like sewage that came up from the toilet, from the shower, from like just the middle of the floor. And she goes in and she sends us these pictures of it starting to like drain down the drains. And I just felt, not just because there was shit everywhere, but I felt sick to my stomach, man. Like sitting there watching all this, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
So I made a flight and went up there the next day. And it's just depressing, man. Like you said, 8 days. And instead of being like, we're going to move here, we're going to move in, everything's going to be great, set the basement up, set up the house, get everybody excited, get the kids going. And now it's like, I got to call a contractor to come in and put the walls back together. Do it. Yeah. And not even that, hemorrhaging money, man. Like money left and right all over the place. I'm going to be dirt poor in Chicago. Poor.
Not a good time. But hey, that's the spice of life.
It really is. And I'm not the only one who's struggling with a little bit of flooding. Our friends up at West Point are struggling with some flooding too, because they had 8 inches of rain, right?
8 inches of rain falling in like the span of they said the storm came up so quick. It was the same. Remember when that massive flood hit New York City area last year? And it came so quick. Everyone was like, where was the warning? It's one of those storms that just popped up like crazy. And here in New York, that last time, flooding happened so quickly, people were drowned in their basement apartments. Like that's how quick it all happened. It was insane. I believe there's 1 death so far. There are people missing, and it's all right around the West Point campus. There were definitely units and training things affected by this. I know Cons
the 82nd
was like
Airborne was up there, according to Cons, who, by the way,
Airborne. Oh my God, we're missing the biggest story of all.
We're missing the big news. Cons isn't here. It's just Kate and I running our damn mouth because Cons, his wife had their baby.
He's a dad. I can't believe. I think it's because it happened at the beginning of the break. Otherwise, we would have mentioned at the top.
Seems like a year ago.
Beautiful, beautiful baby girl. She's so cute. She looks like both of them. She's gorgeous. I don't know if I should say all the details on here of her name and stuff like that, but I would leave that one off. She is an absolute beaut. I'm so happy for him. I know she's already.
You can tell he's beaming too. Like he's beaming about it, sending us pictures in the group chat of him holding her. And I honestly believe that that's the 2 best things of having kids is, one, when they're sleeping on your chest, when they have like milk mouth and you know that they're like full out Thanksgiving after the turkey, just taking a huge nap. That one's great. And then the smell of a baby when you get them out of the bath and they like snuggle up to you with a little towel on. Unbelievable. Just 2 of the best feelings in the world.
Today's show is also brought to you by Proper Wild. Proper Wild is a clean all-day energy shot designed to boost your energy, focus, productivity without the jitters or crash. There's no preservatives, no artificial flavors, no horrible chemicals, just a natural tasting energy shot with clean ingredients that work. I already have like 3 or 4 of those bad boys sitting in the center console of my car, and I have that along with the Spotify playlist because I'm about to do 19 hours of driving. I needed to be focused, I need to have some energy, and I want to be productive on the road, listen to some podcasts, maybe 0 Block 30, I'll just listen back. But if you want to do that and feel good and feel energized, go to Proper Wild. Is available at a store near you. You don't have to go to the website anymore. You could just go straight to a store, be like, hey, hook me up with some Proper Wild. It's delicious. You're going to like it. And if you can't find it at a local store, which you should be able to, just go to their store locator on their websites and you'll be able to find it.
The best of the best. So I'm super happy for him. He's going to be such a good dad. He's going to be such a great dad. So I'm so excited for them. His wife is doing well. The baby's doing well. And I'm just super excited for all the West Point gear she's going to be wearing up at those tailgates. She's going to be crushing it. But yeah, West Point has, I was watching a news report this morning from one of the roads up there, just completely gone because it's all cliffs and remember, I texted you guys once I went hiking and I was like, guys, I'm holding onto a tree on a nice cliff. I think I'm going to die.
Weren't you pregnant too?
What?
Weren't you pregnant then too?
Probably. But it's like way more mountainous and hilly there than I think people realize. It's like really treacherous roads and all along the Hudson River. And so they're going to have, I bet, the
huge breaks, like not just like little bit of washout, like highways, roads that are completely, you can't go across them, like from side to side, completely gone down like the mountain, 200-foot drops in some places that normally are dry, that looks like waterfalls. It's crazy. And
they're telling people to stay in their homes, don't go anywhere. They're still looking for people. So I don't know how this is going to affect the start of the new school year for West Point. I don't know how this is going to affect the training that was going on up there when this happened. Like, I can only imagine, because those tents aren't in there real firm. I don't know. They could only withstand so much. So just thinking of everybody up there, that was absolutely crazy too. So everybody's flood. The good news is I didn't flood. I'm doing great.
Well, nice job, Kate.
Thank you. Yeah,
fucking crushed it. You finally got some good news.
That's living on a 3rd floor apartment has its perks. So
I guess so.
Yeah,
I guess so. All right, let's get into round number 1. What do we have here, Kate?
Tommy Tuberville. I was saying Tuberville, but I like Tuberville a lot more. This has been going on for a hot minute now, but I guess it's finally really coming to a head here. So Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama has been blocking the nominations of high-ranking military officials to pressure the DOD to rescind their policy that reimburses service members who travel out of state for abortions and other reproductive care. And Alabama is among the states where abortion is now illegal. So a proposal to hold a Senate debate over the Pentagon abortion policies as part of the defense bill negotiations coming up. They were thinking, a lot of senators were like, this is our best chance to reason with the guy to come to some sort of conclusion or compromise. But his office said, no, we're sticking to our guns. We're not talking with anybody. It's my way or the highway.
Which in some circumstances I respect. Like if there's something that you really care about and you've told your constituents that you're going to do, holding something up is something that I can respect in some scenarios.
For me, not in this one. And I got to say too, part of being a government official is working with other people and coming up with answers and compromises. Anyway, this hold affects everyone from 4-star Air Force General C.Q. Brown. He's a nominee for the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs, to scores of 1, 2, and 3-star officers assigned to new base commands. And this creates a huge domino effect because now you have hundreds and hundreds of these high-ranking officers who are waiting to move to their next commands. Well, they've got families. They've got spouses who have new jobs lined up. They have kids that are trying to start school before the fall semester. It affects hundreds more people that way. And then they are often assigned.
And that's aside from the readiness stuff, because that's affected greatly too.
And they're also assigned many, many staff members who are also waiting to hear what the word is now, and all their families. So really, this is affecting thousands of people all the way down to children. And
I mean, and we're doing moves. Like, imagine if every week or so, Barstool was like, all right, we're going to push it back a little bit. We're going to push it back a week. We're going to push it back a week. We're going to push it back a week. How do you find a place to rent? How do you find a place to buy? How do you do any of those
Half
things?
Your stuff is in storage. You're worried about where you're going to get your kids in school because holding a spot at certain schools goes really quickly. Yeah. That's like impossible. So basically, this is just an enormous gaggle fuck for high-ranking officers, their families, their aides, and their families too, and all the way down the line. So this essentially leaves two options. First, Tuberville's office said Congress could vote to change a U.S. law that prohibits federal funding for abortions, except in the cases of rape, incest, threat to life of a pregnant woman, which Tuberville is saying the Pentagon's circumventing this by allowing reimbursement for women in the military to go get these procedures done. And changing that law is incredibly unlikely in a Republican-controlled House. So basically, option one, not going to happen. Option two, Senate Democratic leadership has the unattractive option of getting past Tuberville's hold by calling for a whole separate Senate vote on each individual nomination. And we're talking hundreds of nominations. So due to the debate rules, long story short, this would take for fucking ever. And it would occupy all the Senate's time and energy. They could focus on nothing else for months and months. So option two, the only other option, also not happening. The high-ranking officials included this in this blockage. It's setting enormous precedents because for the first time in over a century, the U.S. Marine Corps will not have a permanent leader. Commandant David Berger is required to retire Monday, today, and there's no confirmed replacement for him now. If this continues, other branches are going to face the same problem. There's tons of 3- and 4-star nominations pending for positions due to rotate in the next 120 days. And they're all up in the air. And we're talking the Chief of Staff of the Army, Chief of Naval Operations, Commandant of the Corps, Director of National Security Agency, the NSA, Commander of Cybercom, Commander of Northcom, like
essentially every single commander that you've heard of, that they're important, that their position is important. SOCOM, CENTCOM, all those different big time comms, the Defense Intelligence Agency, places like that, all of them are being held up. And those are positions, like, I know it seems like not a big deal that the commandant is going to have like an acting commandant, but there's things that you can't do if you're the acting commandant that you could do as the normal commandant, like setting the precedent for what you're going to do for the next 4 years. Setting out the commandant's mission statement is difficult when you don't actually have a commandant.
Yeah, and at a time where our military is expected to, one, defend the nation, meet the acute threat of Russia and other countries that are acting a fool, and facing the challenges. There's so many different challenges coming up from the border to this, to that, to that. At this time, 89% of all of our general and flag officer positions could be vacant. 89%. Yeah. So
there's 612, from what I remember reading, there's 612 of these positions that are flag officers. So brigadier general and above, 1 stars and above. There's 614 of those in the military. 480 of them are being held back right now because of what's going on. That's a lot, man. Like 480 of 612, the most like important positions in the military, is wild.
And so this also sets a dangerous precedent because it's the practice of placing indefinite holds on general and flag officers. Like, is this going to normalize it? Is another politician going to be like, ooh, well, I have this sticking point that I want to prove a point on, so I'm going to hold up the next nominations that come through. Like, is this going to be a thing if this works out for him? And also, it just completely screws over, once again, women in the military just getting completely screwed by one lunatic, whether you agree with abortion or not. This is just fucked. I don't know a more eloquent way to put it. I don't know a more eloquent way to put it.
And it's not just him that is doing this. Like, it's not just us that are against this. Other major Republicans, like Senator McConnell, is against it. He said that I don't support putting a hold on military nominations. I don't support that at all. Roger Wicker from Mississippi, he also said that he didn't agree. I would not have chosen the approach that way. I think it's a vital reason to put these officers in place. And clearly we are trying to resolve it, but I don't think that's come easy. Over and over again, the different senators the Republican senators also like, we don't agree with this, because our job is that the arms committee is to be like, make sure that we have the ability to have arms. Like, that's the most important part of it.
Exactly. And you could argue that, well, yeah, whatever. I won't get into it. You all know how I feel. But anyways, so that's going on with that.
So that's that. So if you could pressure a senator, if you ever feel like doing that, now's the time. Like, call his office and be like, hey, dude, you're messed up. Like, just about anything else in politics, I understand. Football and back and forth, like whatever, like that's going to happen. But it's been forever that the military is exempt from that. right? It feels that way. Like all the political gamemanship seems like the military's been exempt, but that is definitely not the case in modern day America. All right, let's move on to something really depressing in round number 2. What do we got here, Kate?
Boy, howdy. It sure is. My goodness. So this is one of those, I saw it pop up on a news ticker over, and I was like, oh God fucking damn it. God, no. So a 14-year-old girl whose family claimed she was sold to a U.S. Marine for sex has been found at Camp Pendleton in California 2 weeks after she went missing. The girl was first declared missing on June 13th, 4 days after relatives said she ran away from her grandmother's house. However, her aunt claims the teen has been sold into sex trafficking. Again, these are just claims by the family and by the aunt. We don't know the full true story yet. The teen was found at the San Diego.
In their defense, if your niece is 14 years old and it was found on a Marine base in a barracks.
Oh, yeah.
Some of these are I would say natural conclusions to jump to, right?
Yes, 100%. The team was found at the San Diego area base on June 28th, and days later, a Marine was seen being led from the barracks in handcuffs. I was looking on the Marine Corps Reddit, on the Marine Corps private Facebook pages I belong to. Everybody's saying it was CLB-5, which is it's a logistics unit. So they do transportation, supply, field level maintenance, general engineering. That was the unit that this person was from. The incident is under investigation. Authorities are telling NBC San Diego. The Marine pictured in handcuffs was being detained and questioned about the missing girl. The victim's grandmother told authorities she had run away several times before, but had always previously returned. The girl's aunt, Cassandra Perez, told authorities that her niece, who she said has learning disabilities, was sold to the Marine for sex. She posted to her TikTok account on July 6th, clearly nervous about what would happen to her as she feared retribution, speaking out about what her niece had allegedly gone through. And she says, I would like to preface this video. I did not kill myself. If I go missing or end up murdered, the people potentially responsible could possibly be located here at Camp Pendleton. And she's like sitting in her car outside the base, filming the gate to the base and herself. And a lot of people are saying, well, she's a lunatic. Like, she is obviously like tinfoil hatting this whole situation kind of thing. But again,
it's also hard, man. Like, because if something happens to that so close to you, somebody's so close to you, I feel like you kind of lose it sometimes, right? Like at least a little bit.
Yes. And she claimed the military tried to engage in a cover up and that everyone at Camp Pendleton allowed the victimization of the 14-year-old. She said the security looked her in the face and allowed this man to bring a minor onto base when he then proceeded to have sex with her, Perez said. And I want to say here, there's only one gate at Camp Pendleton where you have to 100% show ID, and that's the Fallbrook gate on the east side of this this base.
Physical security.
This base is absolutely enormous. We're talking like hundreds of miles by hundreds of miles. It's huge. Okay, it's like 36 miles of coastline. It goes way into the camp. And because that Fallbrook is the Navy side, and that's where we keep all of our ammo and stuff like that, that's the only base, the entry to the base. And there's multiple entries where you have to 100% show all your IDs, show everything. Most of the time, I think people think it's really difficult to get onto a military base. It's really not.
Like, remember how nervous Radio Bren was whenever we went to the Air Force Academy? He was like very nervous about getting in because people had guns and things. And we were all like, nah, man, this ain't a big deal at all.
And half the time, like back in my married days, when I had nieces and nephews on that side of the family who came out to visit, who were young teenagers, I had never had any trouble getting them on and off base. And I didn't even have to register them. Like, I know I've been to Bragg a few times where I had to be registered to get onto base. Pendleton wasn't like that. Like, you just had to flash like, hey, I'm in the military. So as long as you're the person driving is in the military and the car is registered, they really don't. There's thousands.
And let's be honest, they're not even looking like that closely. Like, I've been on gates with dogs and things like that. You don't care. Like, you're just looking at an ID. If it's a military ID, you could tell it's obvious, not fake. Come on in.
Today's show is also brought to you by More Labs. I don't know about you, but I can't drink as much as I could in college, even Bible college, without feeling like a big old crap bag. I was feeling like a crap bag when I used to drink a bunch Even just a few drinks now has me feeling like crap these days, and it takes me like a week and a half to get over a hangover. More Labs created a nifty lifesaver of a drink called Morning Recovery that helps you prevent rough mornings after drinking. PFT just gave me some of this when I was over at his house. We were going to have a couple beers on July 4th, and I was like, I can't drink as much as I used to. He's like, check this out, try a couple. I did try a couple, and I actually felt great the next day. It's super simple. All you have to do is drink one Morning Recovery while you drink or before going to bed. It contains super herbs, vitamins, and minerals that help you bounce back in a proprietary blend of electrolytes to rehydrate you. So you can have fun at night and feel good the next day, feel like a real human, like you did when you were 21, like you did when you were super cute, not like me at 41. They conducted a clinical studies, and users of Morning Recovery felt 80% better than those without Morning Recovery across the various symptoms of drinking. Go to morelabs.com, that's morelabs.com, and use code ZBT for 20% off your first order of Morning Recovery.
Like, and you never check the passengers, never.
Well, because quite honestly, there's tens of thousands of people going on and off base every day. It's like a city.
Not like TSA.
So that claim, and again, I'm like trying to be sensitive to how the family is feeling, obviously, but like, it's not like
that part. I don't believe that was sold on base, like to a 14-year-old, and that officials looked away. Just that cannot be true.
So due to her age, she could not have been given this consent. Then claimed that someone referred to her family by the military told them the Marines were trying to keep the story from becoming public. From what I've seen, the military is releasing what they have so far. But I'll say this, from all my Googling around and looking into what the actual Marines and veterans are saying on this story and the inside scuttlebutt, stuff like this has happened in Marine barracks before. A lot of people were commenting about a similar case with a minor at 1st Battalion 5th Marine Barracks. I couldn't find like news stories on it or anything like that, but I saw a lot of comments about that. I'll have to do a little more digging. And I think there's a general public distrust of the military's handling of cases involving sexual assault now, especially following the Vanessa Guillen case. Mm-hmm. But even before that and after that, there's been more cases where the military has botched
for decades. For decades.
It's always kind of been botched and not handled correctly. Even the families of the victims step forward and they're like, you've handled this all wrong. So I think that builds a huge distrust. And lest we forget, like, remember in 2019, there was dozens of Marines smuggling migrants into the U.S., from Camp Pendleton.
Yeah. At that formation, right? It wasn't the one where they had like a big formation. They were calling people out and arrested them.
And so these stories, especially coming out of Camp Pendleton, build a huge amount of distrust and further that civilian military divide. And making that even worse is what I saw on TikTok. There are several, anybody can be a news anchor on TikTok. I've done news stories about local New Jersey news that have gotten millions and millions of views. I'm not a news anchor. I'm not an expert. And people are doing this with this story and not making up information, but alluding to things and conspiracy theorying it. And they have these TikToks about this event and this 14-year-old and Marines sex trafficking on base. These have millions of views, hundreds of thousands of likes and shares. And so the internet is sweeping the narrative long before. It's like military PR is kind of asleep at the wheel on getting ahead of these things.
And because they have so many layers they have to go through, which is understandable because they don't want to try everything in the court of public opinion, because then NCIS can't do their job and there's no real justice that can be applied.
Yeah. And I don't know, from everything I'm seeing online, this is just a mess. Obviously, the most important thing of all, I hope that this child gets all the help and support that she needs at this time. I hope the Marines are quick and transparent as hell in getting to the bottom of it. But
they won't be transparent. Because one, I don't think they can be. Like, when you have this kind of case, I think after it's over, like in the trial, I think you could be a lot more clear. But you can't, like, here's the information that we have that we're going to try this person with. Like, I don't know. I just
hope there's forthright. Here's all we can tell you right now, and here's why this is all we can tell you right now. And as we go forward,
they're keeping it very, very small. Like, this person is involved with this unit at this time. We're aware. No further comment at this time. I understand that. But as somebody who's observing and wants to know that people are treated fairly and that this is getting the coverage, because I think that's the only way that you mitigate these type of events, I don't know what you do. I just don't know what you do.
I will say this. I do remember my time, and I believe it was someone on duty. I was trying to find the little micro details of this story, and people said it was someone on duty who finally like really discovered it. And because too, we don't know the exact timeline. She was missing for 2 weeks, but we don't know exactly how long she was in the barracks. There was another photo of a duty book that was going viral showing that the duty had noted her like 2 weeks ago and no one did anything, but other people were saying that's from a totally different thing. That again, this is how social media is. You don't know what to believe or what not to believe. But there's no saying how long she was actually on the base. I don't know. But crazy shit goes on in the barracks. Like people don't realize we had a guy who had a woman and her baby living in his room. Like he was raising a non-military, not even his baby in his barracks room.
I like how you clarified he's a non-military baby.
It was just some lady he met at the bar who had a baby. And next thing you know, he brought them and like was hiding them in his barracks room for days. I think they were there. Like
good initiative, bad judgment.
People are like, Pat, because I was telling the story to Pat and he's like, isn't it like Full Metal Jacket? Aren't you all in one big room together? And I'm like, no, it's depending on your rank. Corporals and sergeants a lot of times get their own rooms. It can be 2 to a room. And if you're in cahoots with that person, people keep their mouths shut, like all kinds of crazy shit. And I remember being on duty and I would always check because on Friday and Saturday nights, Marines bring gals back from the bars and bring people back to their rooms that they meet from around base. And I remember always checking IDs to make sure everybody was over 18. I'd be like, sorry, gals, hand them over. If you're not 18, you're not coming in this fucking barracks. Like, and sorry, guys, you can call me a buzzkill. I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to be the one.
How often did that happen?
I'd say like maybe a couple times a month there would be, because you forget too, the high ranking military folks on base, how old are their kids?
Yeah.
High school age. And what are high school age kids doing on the weekends? Looking for a party. Where do they know they can find the party? In the smoke pits. And so these teens go driving around looking for whatever. Anyways, I just remember always being like, sorry, you got to prove to me you're 18 before you can come hang out. Like, not that you're probably even supposed to be here, but not that much of a buzzkill. But anyway, whatever. So again, hope this girl gets all the help and support that she needs, and that this is fucking figured.
We have to stop talking about stories like this because I'm fucking tired of it too. Like, it's
not great.
No,
hold your fellow Marines accountable. God damn it. Hold them accountable and be up their asses. Do the right.
Now, what do you think about this? You get caught bringing in somebody that's not 18 in, you catch a beating.
Yeah, soap bar at the bottom of the sock.
Right. Like, I think if that happens, you get a beating. Like, there's a lot of times that we could fix stuff just with a beating.
It's a good old fashioned beating.
Just a beating. All right, let's move on to, that was probably good initiative, bad judgment, but I mean, no beatings should be allowed. Unless you're beating your meat in the barracks, that's perfectly fine. Round number 3, what do we got, Kate?
Okay, good initiative, bad judgment. This first one made me...
I knew this was going to make you upset.
This first
I knew it when I saw it. You're going to be upset.
Made me livid. So, Florida police officers are accused of twice putting their 3.5-year-old son in a jail cell to punish him for potty training accidents, and they remain on the job while the investigation continues. During an hour-long video, the child's mother said she didn't believe they did anything wrong, adding it's just people getting it twisted. She also called the investigation the definition of insanity. The dad explained the daycare center requires kids to stop using diapers by age 3, but the boy was still having accidents. So while the school was being lenient, they were trying everything they could think of to get him potty trained.
And I understand that. That pressure is bad. Luckily, Kelsey and McCartney were both potty trained very early and fine. But if you have one of those issues that you think you're going to get kicked out of daycare, biting, Kate.
It's very stressful. I'll tell you that. Yes, it's very stressful because you're fucked. You can't go to work if your kid's not in daycare. You're screwed. The father explained, I'm a cop. I take bad boys to jail that don't follow the law. So that's what I did. I said, you aren't following the rules. Let's go to jail. The father said the cell was nasty, so he checked it out for contraband before putting his son inside. He said his son was only behind bars for about 13 minutes and he had eyes on him the whole time. He was crying. I was getting the response I expected from him. Right there, I'll tell you, you want to give your kid a complex where they do shit their pants the rest of their lives? Be the person they trust most and feel safest with in the world. Throw them in a dirty jail cell and let them cry for 13 minutes while you sit there.
And I actually think the eyes on all the time watching is even worse. Like I understand like hard punishments, like military people, cop people, we do hard punishments. Like there was a time where I was a lot younger and a lot different than I am now, where Kelsey was making the same mistake over like lying. And I finally, like, you can only talk to somebody so much till you're blue in the face. I made her do front leaning rest, like where like the initial stages of push-ups. And I put a picture up on Facebook when I was probably 27, 28, something like that. And people even then were like, this is so mean. And at the time I'm like, it's front leaning rest for like 30 seconds. She's going to be fine. So there is some of those things that I think are okay, like for punishments, because kids do need to learn, and I'm against hitting. So you got to find something. A jail cell for 13 minutes for a 3.5-year-old is not the answer. That's just not the answer. And I've been to jail. Like them things are dirty, like dirty. I can't imagine wanting my kids to even go in one.
I think also too, being a kid and your idea of jail, you don't have full context for everything. The whole thing is terrifying. I don't know. I just spent the week down the shore with a bunch of 3.5-year-olds with my all my cousins' kids. And I just cannot imagine them going in a jail cell. And they still have accidents too. Like they're fucking 3.5, whatever. Anyway, this cop said he also did it with his older son about 9 years ago. And that the child, after his son admitted to hitting a girl in preschool. So he said, it's my job, son. I put people in jail when they hit others. So he also took his previous son, put him in a jail cell and sat there watching him cry. And he said it was effective. He never hit anyone again. So I just think I'm going to say bad initiative, bad judgment. Don't do that.
Yeah, I understand the hitting one a little bit more. Like if the kid's older, like a little bit older, I understand the hitting one. Still wouldn't throw him in a jail cell.
In preschool, though, kids fucking hit, man. Like
right,
a preschooler, no.
Like if Cash came home whenever he had bit somebody, if you're like, well, now you're going straight to jail. Like, could you imagine?
No, I can't in a million years. So I don't know.
Bad initiative, bad judgment.
Not my
I would say actually good initiative, extremely bad judgment, because you do have to figure out how to make your kid stop shitting in his pants or not hitting people. So you got to come up with something. This was not it. I think this is the quintessential good initiative, very bad judgment.
Maybe hop on Google and read the million different ways you can try that aren't putting your kid in jail. I don't know.
Right.
Anyway.
All right. What do we got? Number 2.
Twitter owner Elon Musk abandoned all subtlety Sunday night as his beef with Mark Zuckerberg reached a head. The Tesla CEO asked for a literal dick measuring contest between basically Musk, Zuckerberg at a table, pulling their dicks out, getting the ruler out and seeing who has the bigger penis.
Now let's just stop there, because that's essentially the story. But just off of your own thought, who do you think wins that?
Ooh, so I think it's a tie, but in a different way. I think Elon Musk has a very wide set penis. I think he's got more of a chode. And I think Zuckerberg has not very long, but has a longer penis, but it's very thin.
Yes.
I think if you combine their two penises, you'd get a lovely normal penis. The penis of somebody who better be good with their tongue and their hands. Okay, better be good on the clitoris and other ways. But a perfectly fine penis. Two of them separately, chode and a long boy.
Yeah, the concern for me with Elon is the way that his tits sit, because the way that he has the tits sit and the belly sits, you know exactly what kind of penis that you're working with. It's one of those, like the gunt, the fat the little area right above the old penis.
Yeah.
I feel like Elon's got a puffy one that probably sticks out like 2 or 3 inches more than the rest of his groin area does. And when you do that, you only have like a bigger corkscrew, like one of those big bottles that they use on like terrarium videos on TikTok.
Right.
I think that's what the top of his looks like. And whereas Zuckerberg, I think have you ever seen one of those beach worms that like you give it like a little cricket and you grab it by the head and you pull it out and it's like 15 inches long, but it's got like a little mouth that will bite you, but not too hard where you're going to bleed.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Okay.
So
I think you're pretty spot on. I'd have to say. I'd
Yeah.
also have to say both weird pube situation for both. Barely any, but scattered on Zuckerberg, and then just huge tufts randomly sprouted around Musk.
I could actually see Zuckerberg with like cornrow pubes.
Very neat and tidy, well kept.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But he doesn't want to shave because he's nervous about razors, but he's got to do something fancy because he's a billionaire.
I'll tell you this, if they did it, I would 100% watch. I would 100% be fully invested in this.
And I would watch either one. I think that they should have
a good amount of money to watch it. So
if they're going to fight in the Coliseum, like they said that they were going to fight in the Coliseum, I think you have instead the normal weigh-ins, because we know that they're going to fluctuate so big in weigh-ins.
Yeah.
That's where you do it. It's like a dick weigh-in.
Oh, weighing them.
Yeah. Like I think a weight would be a better barometer because
you
can have some
heavier, I think.
Yeah, like mass, like the density.
All
right, let's move to number 3. This one's different.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes in life we're faced with tough choices and the path forward isn't always clear. I don't know what's going to come around the corner. It might be a flooded basement. It might be broken pipes. It might be a broken toe. It might be getting vertigo. It might be all kinds of stuff like it has been in my family's life. But we're all on BetterHelp. We're hanging out with BetterHelp. We're getting therapy, so it makes these rough times a little bit easier. So whether you're dealing with decisions around career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate life. So you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/0 to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/0. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/0.
Oh, good initiative, bad judgment.
Good initiative, good judgment.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
If somebody tries to steal your entire like social media platform, then I feel that you have the right to call them out for a dick measuring contest.
But you don't get to push the ruler in.
No. And are we doing from the top or from the bottom?
From the bottom, of course.
I'm more of a from the top guy, straight from the stem. All right, what's 3?
The leader of a QAnon cult who convinced thousands of people that former President JFK and his son JFK Jr. are still alive has died. Michael Protzman, age 60, died last Friday in the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, a week after an accident at a motocross track. His death was confirmed to Vice News in a phone call with the Minnesota Department of Health. He died as a result of multiple blunt force injuries when he lost control of his dirt bike.
Dirt bike's a good way to go.
It's
like
a
if
great
you're gonna
way to go.
Like you just went out, you just sent it a little too hard.
Doing what you love. That's where people say, hey, he was doing what he loved. He was doing what he loved.
You don't smile you don't die on a dirt bike without a smile on your face. And that's the reason that's the way you want to go.
Especially if you're a QAnon leader.
Yeah.
Like just writing fan fiction for
you don't
a
ever
living.
get caught. You just have everybody basically worshiping you like they did this guy.
Yeah, he was known to his followers as -48. And
that's a scary nickname.
Yeah,
his name is -48. How did you get that many negatives?
And he was from Washington State and owned a demolition company, rode dirt bikes before his emergence as a QAnon guru in early 2021. This guy sounds fucking awesome. I'll say it.
Really
he sounds
does,
pretty cool.
He sounds awesome.
I kind of like this guy. He gained national attention in November of 2021 when he convinced hundreds of his followers to travel from all across the U.S. to Dallas, where he claimed that JFK and JFK Jr. would appear at Dealey Plaza on the spot where JFK was assassinated. He got hundreds of people to spend their vacation days going to wait to see if JFK would appear. And again, you gotta respect it. I mean,
if you flew in from Oregon to see JFK and JFK Jr. and you're just sitting out there with your signs, we love you, JFK. And then next thing you know, it doesn't happen and you got to walk back to your car. That's the ultimate walk of shame.
No, because these QAnon people, though, are so good at anybody who runs a cult or QAnon kind of thing. When like the end of time state comes and goes, they just shift the story again. They're like, uh-oh, I just got another message from
we didn't round up in the right place. Yeah.
Right. So when that didn't happen, when JFK didn't appear at Dealey Plaza, he changed his conspiracy theory and said that over the next 18 months, he would alter and change his predictions to suit his needs and keep his followers on board. And that's what he did. Instead,
we call that
he claimed,
improvising, adapting, and overcoming in the business.
This time he claimed, oh my God, everybody, sorry about that. But JFK didn't appear at Dealey Plaza because he made a last minute switch into Donald Trump. Okay.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Good initiative, good judgment.
I agree. I think that's about the best judgment you can have. If you can establish yourself as a cult leader, you have to do it. You just have to. I would love to be a cult leader.
After he changed after the Dallas gathering, when he was like, oh, I just got a message. He's in Trump's body now. He spent the next 18 months crisscrossing the U.S. attending Trump rallies. And he had a rotating band of followers who he ordered to pay for his hotels and food.
Power move.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Numerous followers, now this is sad, abandoned their families and spent their life savings on him, though.
I kind of disagree with the sad part. I feel like if you do this, in a way, you deserve it. Like, because you were going to be in a cult at some point. Like, you just had to pick the one that you're going to be involved with. Like, people that were involved with David Koresh would definitely believe this JFK thing. The people that were involved with the Hail Bop comment, they definitely would believe this thing. If you're going to be in a cult at some point in your life, you're just going to do it. It's like you just have to. It's an innate calling within yourself to be in a cult.
But I will say it's still sad because I have people in my life that I hear them say things now straight from the QAnon handbook where I'm like, I don't even say anything back. I just let it. I'm just like, oh my God. And it's like a little bit of a bummer. It's a little bit sad. You're
and
like,
the logic behind it. Like, I see these people on TikTok that are the JFK folks, like these same people. They're like, oh, that's not really Biden. It's a robot Biden. That's not really Biden. And Biden's not even president. It's Trump that's still president. And Biden is acting like he's president. And you're like, what? Like, why? Well, why would Trump be a part of that?
If you know somebody, so this one woman, Katie Garner, said that she was talking about one of his followers saying that she left her children for this and doesn't even care. She's missing birthdays and holidays for this. She truly believes it's all real. But she won't come home. I don't believe she'll ever come back from this. We are in mourning. When you see a loved one being taken advantage of by all these things, like, it's maddening. It's like you know your relative is vulnerable and they're being taken advantage of. And it's like, it is like mourning. It's like seeing a death slowly happen, kind of. So I get that people would be upset. So maybe.
But the people that you've seen do this in your own life, Kate, did you notice any type of like predisposition, being predisposed to having this type of thing?
No, what it was spending more and more time online. Was going down rabbit holes the wrong direction. And it's like, holy shit. And then maybe having extra time on your hands or going through something where that's a good escape and finding other people then who you can relate to. If you can't figure out why your life is going wrong and somebody's telling you, here's why it's going wrong, follow this way. And, things will get better. I don't know. It's
and that sense of community. Cause I feel like when you go into the QAnon world, a lot of the people look like weirdos. Like they just do.
I bet they throw a great party.
Right. And if you have been a huge weirdo your whole life, and now you got a group of other weirdos like you, and you're hanging out, you're just doing a bunch of weirdo soup and becoming bigger and bigger weirdos together.
I'll say, I feel like the QAnon group makes great dips and good crock-pot meals.
Yeah, their potlucks would be banging.
Good potlucks in that group.
All right, let's move on to some save rounds and alibis. Kate, what do you have?
This afternoon, Le Bernardin is I think it's a 3-star Michelin restaurant in New York City.
Oh,
and Big Cat, who I work with, this whole group from this other show I'm on went to Le Bernardin. I love how you
provide context to that. Big Cat.
I don't know if our military followers are big into I don't know. So, long story short, everybody got to go but me, and I had to stay behind for whatever. And so he got me a $500 gift card to this restaurant, which is so nice. And I'm leaving in 10 days. And so I'm like, oh my God, I got to use this gift card. The only date they had available was this afternoon. And so I'm going to
What time?
2:15. So it's our first day back
Prime
from
time.
vacation, and I have to leave the show I'm on early to go to Le Bernardin. But I painted my nails early this morning. I woke up before my
lovely.
son to do my nails. I'm wearing a dress and little heels, and like I'm getting dressed up to go eat. I don't know what. I'm not a fancy lady. I'm gonna be like,
oh, have you not looked at the menu?
so they have this big menu that's like 18 different things they bring out, but it's like all seafood and stuff. And I don't eat seafood.
Yeah.
So they also have like a steak meal and all this stuff. But the bread is supposed to be, I don't think I've ever been to a restaurant this fancy in my entire life. And I'm so nervous for it. So I don't know.
Are you going to video it? I just want to hear you order.
I think I'll be afraid to get my phone out.
Have you practiced? You should practice doing your orders.
You know who owns this, whose restaurant this is? Remember, you've heard of Anthony Bourdain, right? You know who that is.
Yeah, familiar.
Yeah, of course. Remember he has his like best buddy that he's always traveling with?
Yeah.
It's that guy's restaurant.
Oh.
I think. So
what is it called? I want to look it up while we're still on the
Le
show.
Bernardin.
Bernardin.
Bernadin.
Oh, that's fancy. Anytime. So let's see what kind.
They have a dress code. And
is the beef going with you?
It's the beef, and then one of our friends, because we're like, I don't know if we can spend, since I'm not drinking. I'm like, I don't know if we can spend but I think two people can easily spend $500 there.
Oh yeah. So for the listener, here we go. You ready? This is this is the 4-course meal that they have today, Kate.
Okay.
So they have layers of thinly pounded yellowfin tuna.
See, I don't eat that.
Foie gras with a toasted baguette.
See, I don't eat that either. Oh no.
Shaved chives and extra olive oil. I feel like that you could get down with
I'll
that,
eat some
right?
Chives, sure.
Yeah, I think that's on bread.
Okay.
Your second course is sauteed langoustine, truffle, and cantarelle.
I don't eat truffles.
I don't know what the rest of that stuff is, and it's aged with balsamic vinaigrette. Your main course. You ready for your main course today?
Yes.
I think you actually might like this. No, you won't.
Chicken
crispy
fingers?
Black bass, wood ears, water chestnuts, black truffle, hot and sour pot au feu. I don't know what that is either. Wood ears.
Pat's
crispy duck. What's that?
Oh, crispy duck. Hell yeah.
I think you could eat that one, the crispy duck with fresh snow peas.
Yep.
Or they have a pan-roasted filet mignon with wild mushrooms. That seems like your pick, right?
I'm not a mushrooms lady, chef, but I'll figure it out. I know I'm going to love it. I know it's going to be fabulous and that whatever. I just know I don't belong there. And so I'm stressed a little bit.
All right, some behind-the-scenes stuff. We had to stop recording in a second because my phone was ringing from my mover company. They just moved my date up from Thursday to tomorrow. So instead of having 2.5 days to do the things that I need to do, as soon as we get done, I'm going to have to run around with a chicken. Nope, not with a chicken. Like my aunt is a chicken who has had his head removed.
Better you than me. I'll be at a fancy lunch. You better get out of here.
When I go upstairs, tell Annalise.
You should record it. You should record
because I scheduled the movers. Oh, before we go, I need one thing because I want to talk a little bit more about the move. So the moving process is an absolute joke for me right now. One, I told you about the flooding that we have. 8 days, then there's a flood that ruins a lot of the basement that we have. After that, we come back. I come back from Chicago, flew up one day, came back the next day to make sure everything was still going good. We get an insane list of repairs that the people who are buying our house, like probably 15, 20 grand worth of repairs that they're requesting. Not doing that. And then I start looking at different reviews of the moving company that we had originally picked. And there were so many horror stories of things that were like people taking 3-4 months to get their stuff, things coming up broken, the movers not telling them where any of their stuff is located at in the country. So I started seeing those all the time and switched to a different company. And now they're like changing it from, we originally asked for Friday or Saturday, and they've moved it up. And now it's before we record on Monday, we released on Wednesday. Before the show even comes out, I will be having people pack my stuff. That's how fast the turnaround is.
God bless.
Yeah. All right. Well,
have fun.
Yep. That being said, Kate, will you do the ads after I say sound the retreat?
Sure. Sound the retreat.
All right. Sound the retreat.